Welcome back to session 2 of Little Bang Discovery Plus. Now, if we were face to face, we'd have a little science fair now and talk about what you did in between the last session, if you did any of the extra activities and what you discovered. So if you haven't really had a chat to your grown-up about what you did last time or what you've done since, now is the time to pause the video and have a little chat about anything that you practiced that scientists do after the last session. Now, this session is called Lovely Light and Equipment in Science. So we're concentrating on the equipment that scientists use, and we're also going to learn about light. Now, before we start, we need to have a little chat about what you think you already know about light. Now, it doesn't matter if this is not correct. So grown-ups, if your child is telling you things and you think, oh, I don't think that's quite correct, it doesn't matter, because we're going to learn a bit about light and we might change our ideas after we've done some experiments. So here are some questions to get you thinking about what you already might know about light, what you think you already know, and grown-ups, you might like to actually write down what the children say. So in your discovery diary, if you want to get that out, you might want to quickly write down what the children think they know about light. So the first question is, what is light? Do you have any idea what it is? When is it there? When isn't it there? The next question is, can you see if it's only a little bit of light? So if it's nearly dark, so let's say you were playing hidey and you were under the bed, and it might be quite dark under your bed. Can you still see? What about if you went to the zoo and you went into the night house where the nocturnal animals are and they have the lighting during the day really low, like it's nighttime. So those animals are out running around while you're there, and then during the night they turn the lights up really bright so the animals all go to sleep because that's when they normally sleep. So can you see when you're inside the night house at the zoo? What about if there's no light at all? What about if you're playing hidey and you go into the cupboard and you close the door and the light can't get in at all? Can you see in the cupboard? Perhaps if you've never tried hiding under the bed or going into the cupboard, you might like to try it now and see, can you actually see when there's very little light or when there's no light at all? So, and then write down, grown-ups, write down what the kids discover. Now, our first experiment that we're doing today, you'll need a light source, so perhaps it's going to be the torch on a mobile phone, or you might have a really old-fashioned torch like this, which I've got from a long time ago, or you might have a little USB charging torch, LED light torch like this. So whichever one you've got, see if you can get hold of that now, because we're going to try and learn about how light moves by shining a torch. So it can be your phone, or it can be a different type of torch, or it might even just be a lamp that you've got. And what we're going to do is use our discovery diary, and we're going to make a symbol on our discovery diary. So you might put an X, you might put a smiley face, whatever it is you want to put in your discovery diary, make a mark, and we're going to shine the torch onto our mark. Now, at the moment, I've got the torch right above it, and it's shining onto my X, and now it's shining onto my smiley face. Now, what happens if I put the torch over here? Can I still get it to shine on those things? Yes, I can. What about if I put the torch all the way over here? Can I still get it to shine? Okay, yes I can. Now, if you have a look at where the torch is and where the light is shining, and I'm going to use my ruler to show this, can you see how it's going in a straight line? So whether I have my torch here, whether I have my torch up there, whether I have my torch over here, the light is travelling in a straight line. And that's what light will do unless it bumps into something. So we've got our torch shining and the light is travelling in a straight line no matter where we hold the torch. Now today, because we're concentrating on equipment in science, what I'd like you to do now is to draw a picture of your torch and your discovery diary with the light shining on it. So if you could do a picture now of the equipment that you've used for this little experiment. Now our next experiment is looking at what happens when light bumps into something. So we've just seen that light goes in a straight line unless it bumps into something. So we want to choose something that is reflective for it to bump into. And what we're going to use is some aluminium foil. So you should have some of that in your kitchen, or it's easy for you to get hold of. So we're going to tear off a piece of aluminium foil and hold it up. Try and make it nice and straight. Hold it up, and can you see yourself? Oh, there I am. Can you see your reflection in the foil? Is one side shinier than the other and better at reflecting? Oh yeah, this dull side's not very good at reflecting, but this nice shiny side is really good at reflecting. Now, while your piece of foil is nice and straight, your reflection is nice and straight. What I'd like you to try to do now is to curve your piece of foil and see if your reflection changes. Oh, yes, see if your reflection changes. Yeah, there's a bit of my reflection. Oh, I've suddenly gone upside down. Can you get your reflection to change? And what if you fold or bend the foil the other way? What happens to your reflection then? My reflection has distorted. So I looked pretty normal when it was straight, but when I bent the foil or curved the foil, my reflection changed. Now, you'll probably get a similar result if you look into a spoon, because like the foil, it's got a curved surface. So when I look this way, I'm upside down. And when I look this way, depending upon where I hold the spoon, my head is changing. It's quite long now. And when I go up there, it's still quite long. When I go down here, my head gets short and my body gets long. So because these surfaces are not flat or plane, the reflection, as the light comes in, instead of bouncing straight back at you, it comes in and bounces off in different ways. So the light is bouncing off or reflecting, and so the image that you see is distorted. Now, which one was the funniest one? When you were upside down? Or I think this one's pretty funny, when I've got really short legs, a super long body, and quite a small head. So I think I'm going to draw that picture in my discovery diary, a spoon, and then my funny reflection in it. So once again, this is the equipment that we're using, a spoon, and draw a picture of the results you get from the funny reflection in the curved spoon. Now, after you've done your drawing of your funny reflection in the spoon, if you pick up your foil again and you've got it nice and straight and flat or plain, and your reflection looks quite normal, what do you think will happen if you crumple the foil up? What do you think will happen to your reflection? Tell your grown-up what you think might happen, and then try it. So I've crumpled up my foil, And now I'm trying to open it up without tearing it, which is a bit tricky. And now, what has happened to my reflection? I can't really see myself anymore because, well, you tell your grown-up why you think you can't see yourself anymore. What's happened to the reflective surface, which means that you can't see your reflection like you could before? Okay, so did you talk to your grown-up about why you can't see your reflection anymore? Did it have something to do with it not being a nice smooth surface, but all crumpled up, so that now the light that is reflecting is going all over the place and not coming back straight at you, so you can't see yourself like you could when it was nice and flat? So when light bumps into something reflective, it can bounce off. And if it's nice and flat, come straight back at you. If it's curved or if it's scrunched, it might bounce off in different directions. But what happens when light gets to something that it can't go through? Talk to your grown-up. Do you know what happens when light hits something that it can't go through? Did you find a word to describe what happens when light can't go through something? When light can't go through something, it is called opaque. So let's choose something from our discovery diary, our discovery box, and let's see. So here I've got my timer. Or you might choose your ruler or a tape measure or something. And I'm going to shine the torch on my discovery diary with the light up above and the item in between. So when I do that, when I shine the torch above my timer, can you see there is a shadow being cast on the book? So when light hits something that is opaque, that it can't go through, it casts a shadow. So there's no light hitting the book where the timer is. You might like to try a shadow with something else. Perhaps you've got a teddy that can cast a shadow. So choose something that casts a nice shadow for you, and then get your grown-up to help you hold the torch and hold the item, and you trace around where the shadow is in your discovery diary. Now, because of shadows, we can make a shadow puppet. So what we're going to do now is use some cardboard. So you might have some card like this, or you might have a packet that was made of cardboard, or that is made of cardboard, that you can use to draw something on your card and then ask your grown-up to cut it out, and it can become your shadow puppet. So I've got one here that I did. It's the outline of my teddy bear, and I'm going to stick it to my ruler like this, and then if I use my torch, I can make a shadow puppet. And hello, Wendy. My name's Blue Ted. So you can make a shadow puppet. You could make a number of shadow puppets and put on a little performance with your shadow puppets. Make up a little story and they can act it out. We've got a couple of extra activities that you can try to look at light and shadow a bit more. But before we do that, let's go back to what you wrote about what you think you know about light. So are there things that you've tested today and discovered that your ideas have changed about how light works? So have a little chat with your grown-up about that now. Maybe they can write down some things for you. Have your ideas about how light works changed? Now, the extension activities that we've got for you are to see what happens to your shadow. So not your shadow puppet shadow, but your shadow, depending upon how far away the light is to a wall that it's falling on. So we need you to set up a lamp or a torch from your mobile phone or something in the middle of the room, and then the children are going to stand between it and the wall, and you can mark how tall their shadow is. So where the top of their shadow is, put a little blob of blue tack. And then if they come and stand in a different spot, is their shadow still falling on that bit of blue tack the same? What happens when the distance between the lamp, the child, and the wall, what happens to their shadow? I think you'll find that there's a change. And the second activity that you might try is if you can get hold of an old box like this one. So this is a shoe box, and it used to have some holes in it, but I've covered them up so that it's only got one hole now. So inside the box, no light can get in except through this one hole. Now you're going to use this hole to peep inside the box. So what you need to do is put a toy. So I've got a toy car that I'm going to put in that I can see with the lid open. With the lid open and the light going in, I can see the toy car. But what happens when I close the lid so that there's virtually no light getting in, and I peep in through the peephole, can I see the car? So I'm not going to tell you the answer. This is something that you can try. So that's the end of our second session about lovely light and equipment in science. So spend the next bit of time before you watch the next session exploring light, noticing it, looking at shadows, looking at reflections, and think about the equipment or the things that you're dealing with at the time. So perhaps the car is making a shadow, perhaps the tree is making a shadow. So think about light and the equipment that you're using to explore it.